So fundamentally, how does loose leash walking technique work? Okay. The analogy I like to give my clients is the electric fence analogy. And it's pretty simple. Imagine we've got a farm and we've got some livestock. It could be cows, it could be horses, doesn't really matter. When that electric fence is first installed and one of the animals goes up to it and gets hit with a high voltage of electricity, they're going to immediately be pretty stressed. Now, although they'll be stressed initially, you give it a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, and eventually each of the animals are going to recognize that as long as they don't approach or touch the fence, that they're going to be more than fine. And after a few weeks, you might even see them being right up next to the fence without any stress at all. This is actually a classic example of negative reinforcement. The most classic example of negative reinforcement in our own lives is walking on the sidewalk. Humans walk stress-free next to a busy road despite there being several thousand-pound vehicles riding 40 miles an hour just a couple of feet away from them. Why do we walk stress-free? Well, because we know where the sidewalk ends and the road begins, and we're also aware of the consequences that occur if we break this boundary. The same kind of a principle applies to loose leash walking technique. Ideal loose leash walking technique is just like an electric fence. The boundaries never change, and therefore the dog's stress will decrease over time as you use the technique more. If the dog hits the end of the lead and you feel tension, then you give a slight correction, letting the dog know that they're out of the bubble they're supposed to be in. That 6-foot bubble created by the lead. The more you work on this exercise with your dog, the more their levels of stress will decrease over time, and eventually it will just be another walk in the park. Make sure you introduce this exercise in a low distraction environment, such as your backyard, or if you have a large basement, and then gradually increase the level of difficulty until eventually your dog can loose leash walk anywhere.